Maybe I should wash my face first. How's the pomp? Okay, it is, that's terrible. So, too fast. It's a rainy day, and we have just had some breakfast. I made some, nope, I ate it. Previously on Diso Does DIY.
Do you want me to be your videographer?
No. Oh my god. Every time. Always something. Good morning. I did wash my face and ran a comb through my hair. I guess that's a thing. We just completed breakfast. It's a rainy day. I don't have any big projects to work on. Actually, I have a couple, but I'm still working on this dining room trim. And what I was doing yesterday, and you can see the drop cloth here, I was trying out different methods of filling the wood in. I used some wood filler on the corners of these frames, and I tried to fill some of the nail holes, the little area that's left, the dimple. And then of course I was trying to, I don't have a nail set, so I was using a screwdriver to bang in some of the nails that didn't seat all the way, especially on the first one when I was dialing in the pressure. And then I sanded it and I painted it. I did a couple different ways, different varying amounts of wood filler. And then I did one just no filler at all. And the holes, they're fairly noticeable. It's possible a second coat of paint would get rid of them. I don't know though. I feel like that's borderline of just being able to see them. A second coat of paint on some of these might fill it in a little bit, but I think I want to take care of it a little bit more. And then I've got to sand the corners. Oh, that's. I got to sand all the corners and think about. Yeah, I put a decent amount of effort into this. For some people, this is probably just like a little bit of nothing, but for me, it's a pretty big project. So I want it to look really good. So today, I'm going to be putting in some wood filler, and I'll see if I can. I'm sure by 3 or 4 of them, I'll have a pretty good idea of what the heck I'm doing. Okay, so I have the Canon PowerShot ELPH 330HS, and this thing just churns through batteries. I think it's really just more of a photo camera, point and shoot, and trying to use it for HD video is a little bit crazy. And I bought some replacement, it's a little bit older, I bought some replacement batteries on Amazon that are not official, and they seem to last just as long as the super old battery. So I don't know, I guess that's what you get for $8. But I've been going around the room and hitting a whole lot of these spots with wood filler, and I've got some updates here. It's looking really good. I'm really happy with it. I feel like I've gotten into a groove. Probably my filming is not, but whatever. Let me just set you down and I'll show you what's going on. Okay, at first I was using this little tool here. I don't really know exactly what it is or how I got it. It's probably not zooming in or focusing on it very well, but I'll try to get a picture of it here in a minute. I think it came with like a nail kit, you know, one of those travel kits for trimming your fingernails and whatnot. And little thunder there. It's worked out really. Originally, I was using it as an applicator to put a small amount on, and now I'm feeling like that was really just too slow. And my tip is to just go for it. Just put some on. This is still really useful when I'm in these corners here, these inside corners. I end up getting a little bit of the sandy wood filler in there, and it's kind of hard to get out with just my finger, so I can sort of go in and kind of scoop / scrape it out with the pointed semi-straight edge here. It also works really well down in these more curved corners, getting around in this middle part to try to scrape out any of the bulky excess, because I know it's going to be difficult for me to sand in those locations even with a sanding sponge. So I'm just trying to get rid of as much of the excess as possible. Otherwise, this stuff sands off pretty quickly and easily, so my little helper. It comes off pretty easily, so with sanding, so I'm not worried about putting a bit on. I put it on and then I just kind of scrape some of it off, and then I try to vacuum it up before it gets too hardened or anything like that. But I'm making some great progress here. I'm more than halfway done with the room. I discovered a few spots, like there's one right here where I forgot to put a nail in, and I'm just gonna have to come back in. I think what I'll do is I'll fill the air tank out in the garage and just unplug it, bring it in, shoot a couple of nails. I've got a few under the window, which is where I finished, so I was probably just rushing, and we'll be done. Let this dry, and then I'll sand it. I'm gonna sand 100% of the surface because there's some roughness on here from the original primer coat that was on these. Sometimes there's little bits of sawdust and things like that. So I'm just gonna give it a real quick sand all around, and of course, focusing on these areas where I had the filler. And then it'll be time to set up a whole lot of drop cloths to paint. And Katie is planning on putting wallpaper up on the upper half of the walls, and so I'll just leave all the drop cloths there so any adhesive and glue doesn't get on the floor. So yeah, there's a little update for you.
A bit earlier, I mentioned that I was using this nail cleaning knife to apply a very small amount of the wood filler to the frame, and then I was spreading it in and taking off the excess. And I said that was a little slow and to just get in there. And what I meant is that I'm just taking my finger and getting some of this wood filler on it and then pressing it into the holes and sort of wiping off all the excess then. On this channel, you can expect things like
Okay, just a quick tip. I am in the future. I've completed the whole process, and I've completed putting up all the trim, and what I'm doing now is I'm going through and tidying things up, and I've started painting. And when I was setting up my 18 gauge brad nailer, I did the first few and the nail was not in all the way. It was sitting proud of the trim piece itself. And I used a nail set. I don't own a nail set. I actually used a Weehaw, very small flathead screwdriver. And I would not recommend that. That is a very expensive nail set. But I was able to get some of them to sit flush or just below flush. But for every two that I got in, I probably had one where it just started to bend because it was sticking out that far. And I even had a few that started to affect where the actual piece of trim was sitting. So it's obviously best to just do it right the first time. Once I had a few that were sitting proud, I changed the depth. I increased the pressure on my tank on the regulator, and I was able to get them to sit much more below the surface there, which I thought was great, and I just moved on. But what ended up happening was, you can see here, when I came through and I painted, I didn't fill these holes all the way, so I still have these little black dots. This one has quite a few. I just wanted to try painting it and see what would happen. And then over on this one, I used some wood filler on those and sanded it. Which, you know, hey, it looks pretty good. And, you know, I've got a few spots here and there. I need to do a second coat. You can kind of see right there, maybe you can, where it's slightly discolored. That's the wood filler itself, sitting over top of the primer coat. So I need to do a second coat on these. But that's just a lot of work. If you take a look over here, I haven't done any painting, and you can just see, oh, these little spots. I got to come back and I've got to sand all those locations, and then I got to paint over it. And of course, I was going to do 2 coats of paint anyways, but goodness gracious, this is a lot of sanding. So there are some locations where I have the nail just flush or just below flush, and I think that those will fill in pretty nicely with paint. Even if there is a slight depression, it will at least get some white paint in there, and hopefully it won't be too big of a shadow. That's my hope, at least. So really setting in the depth on your 18 gauge brad nailer, or whatever it is that you're using, maybe a pin nailer would work. It's really critical. For mine on this Craftsman here, there's this little dial at the top. Let me get out of the light. And you can spin that thing and it will adjust the depth of the shot. And then of course changing the pressure on the regulator of the tank, which is this valve here. And then you see it in the right dial there. I've got it currently set to about, you know, somewhere between 85 and 90, which is kind of what this shooter recommends. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a few and play with it and make sure. I missed some spots, and there's a few spots that I wanted to get a little bit more secure, but I thought I'd go ahead and mention that because I think it's really gonna save a lot of time in the later steps, the cleanup and the painting process. So good luck. Well, that's a wrap on this project. It's actually been a while since I installed this faux wainscoting in the dining room, but I wanted to make sure I got a shot and some filming of the final product. My wife and I have been working on fixing up the downstairs of our home, and this was a project for us that took a little while. You can see we did some wallpaper. I'm happy with the way that it looks, style-wise. I think it ended up being really, really nice. But I will never again do wallpaper. I absolutely hated it every second of the process. It was terrible. And man, so annoying. But it's done and it does look good. The faux wainscoting, picture frame molding, whatever you want to call it, is in and completed, and that looks really great. Very, very happy with that. We ended up painting the soffit here white to kind of, offset, break it up a little bit. We were originally planning on having the wallpaper up there as well. It would have been kind of weird to have the pattern hopefully continue perfectly. And then the problem would be when you get into the corners, like over here, you have this issue of if it lines up at the corner there, it's not going to line up visually when it goes down and hits the wall. I don't know, what all the general rules are of things like that and how important it is, but it was just going to be a problem and really difficult to put on, so we just decided not to do it. I would highly, highly recommend that if you're going to do any sort of painting in a space where you're doing wallpaper, that you do the painting first, because the little tiny drops of paint that maybe we'll get around, they soak into the wallpaper almost immediately and you can't get it off, or I haven't found a way to get it off, so we will see about a method of fixing that. But very happy with the finished space, and if you're looking into doing something like the faux wainscoting picture frame molding, it really isn't that difficult, and I think that the finished product looks really, really nice. So good luck on your projects.